She was 28, a product designer at a mid-sized tech startup. The company was preparing for a big internal pitch, a new AI app meant to change the way people work. She spent weeks on it. The idea was hers. She designed the user experience, built the prototype, and made sure every detail worked. She believed it could be something great. Her manager, Amy, was well-liked. People thought Amy was cool, confident, and helpful. Amy offered to help with the final presentation. She said she'd polish the slides and make the message clear for the executive. She trusted Amy. She thought they were a good team. On the day of the big meeting, she sat in the boardroom, nervous but proud. But when Amy started presenting, she felt her stomach drop. Amy was walking through the app like it was her own idea. Every word, every feature, every design choice. Amy explained it like she had built it herself. She didn't mention her even once. No one noticed. The executives were impressed. They clapped. They asked questions. Amy answered smoothly, smiling, taking all the praise. She sat there frozen. She didn't know whether to speak up or stay quiet. When the meeting ended, she felt invisible. She tried to talk to Amy afterward, but Amy just smiled and said, "We're all one team. Doesn't matter who presented it." But it did matter. It was her work. 2 weeks later, HR called her in. They said she wasn't contributing enough. She was confused. She asked for details, but they gave her vague answers. That same day, Amy was promoted to director of product. She lost her job. Amy got the glory. She left the office feeling like someone had punched her in the chest. She had worked hard, believed in her idea, and trusted her manager. Now she had nothing. She spent days in bed, not eating much, ignoring messages from friends. Everyone told her to move on, but she couldn't. Not after what Amy did. One night, she sat down at her laptop. She opened the old files, her designs, her code, her vision. She looked at it and felt the anger turn into something else. Focus. She started writing again. This time, she'd build it better, stronger, smarter. That night, she made herself 2 promises. First, she would rebuild the product she had created from scratch. Second, she would make sure Amy regretted ever stealing it. That was the start. Days blurred together. Nothing felt real anymore. Food lost its taste, and the sun rising meant nothing. Sleep didn't help, and waking up just reminded her how badly everything had gone. The apartment stayed quiet. Curtains closed. Phone on silent. The only sound was the low hum of her laptop, untouched for weeks. Money was running out fast. She glanced at her bank balance more often than she opened messages. Friends tried to help. Some offered job leads. Others gave advice she didn't ask for. "Let it go," they said. "Start fresh." But she couldn't. The idea still lived in her head. Not just the project, everything it could have been, everything it should have been. One evening, long after midnight, she sat at her desk without meaning to. Her hands moved without thinking. Files opened. Code blinked on the screen. She wasn't ready to apply for jobs or polish a resume, but she was ready to build. Not from anger. At least, not only anger. Something deeper pulled her back in. She had unfinished work. At first, she worked in silence, a few hours each night. Then a few more. Days passed, and the rhythm returned. New ideas came fast. She cleaned up old logic, fixed parts that had always annoyed her. This time, it would be different, better, smarter. She realized if she wanted it to go anywhere, she needed more than code. So she started reading. Business blogs, forums, legal guides. It was all confusing, but slowly it started to make sense. She filed paperwork for a company. Not because she felt ready, but because she knew Amy never saw this coming. She named it Control-Z Labs. A quiet joke to herself. An undo button for everything that went wrong. Curious about Amy's progress, she searched for updates. The company had rolled out a beta version. Some press, a few excited posts, but the praise didn't last. User feedback was lukewarm. Complaints started showing up. The app froze, crashed, lagged. People mentioned how it worked fine with small tasks, but larger inputs broke it. Something about it all felt off. She studied what she could. From what she gathered, the architecture Amy's team used wasn't built to handle scale. It might seem stable, but any real growth would push it past its limit. Amy wouldn't know that. She never did the real work. It wasn't just a technical issue. It was a time bomb. She didn't post about it or tell anyone. Instead, she focused harder. Every flaw she saw in their version became a blueprint for how to beat it. Her version wasn't finished yet, but it was already better. Now it just had to be ready when the moment came. She checked LinkedIn every day. Not for jobs, but to watch what Amy's company was doing. The startup had seed funding now. New investors, new posts, new faces. Amy was everywhere, sharing updates, writing about progress, acting like everything was going great. But she knew better. She looked closely at the people joining. She read between the lines. One day, she noticed a post from a junior developer named Liam. He had joined Amy's team a few months ago. In his post, he didn't say much directly, but the message was clear. He talked about working long hours, feeling unheard, and being stuck on unfinished ideas. No names, no drama, but she saw it for what it was. A crack in the wall. She created a new account. No photo, no name. Just a message. Want to work on the version that actually works? Liam didn't reply right away. A few days passed. She waited. Then he responded with a single word. Maybe. They met in a quiet coffee shop. She didn't reveal everything at first. Just showed him parts of her build. Features running smoothly, systems that actually scaled, real improvement. He asked questions. She answered each one with clear examples and working code. They met again. This time, he opened up. He said things were worse than they looked. Amy didn't understand the product. Most meetings were full of buzzwords, decisions made with no plan. People were working late to fix problems that came from the top. He said he spent more time fixing her mistakes than writing new features. She asked him if he wanted out. He didn't say yes. But he started sending messages late at night. Code questions. Suggestions. Small bits of help. After a week, he sent one line. I'm in. Let's build it right. They didn't tell anyone. Liam stayed at Amy's company for now. He knew the risks, but he believed in the real version, the one she had built from the ground up. He said it just made more sense. The system was faster, cleaner, and actually worked like it should. She didn't celebrate. Not yet. But having someone on her side again felt like a spark. Liam brought fresh eyes and useful feedback. He also brought stories. Stories about how broken things were behind the scenes. He said Amy still pretended to lead the product, but most of the time she was just guessing. Her team was confused. Deadlines made no sense. Everyone was tired. They worked quietly, always checking for mistakes. Every day, her version got stronger. Liam made it clear. Amy's team wasn't loyal. They were just stuck. Most of them were unhappy. Some were already looking for other jobs. She didn't rush. She just kept building. One person at a time, one piece at a time. The cracks in Amy's team were growing. And now, she had someone on the inside. They stayed quiet. No one outside their small team knew what was going on. Every night, after work hours, they logged in and kept building. There were no distractions, no delays, just progress. The product started coming together faster than they expected. It felt real now. Solid. Liam still worked at Amy's company during the day. He kept his head down and did what he was told. But he watched everything closely. Every mistake Amy made, every wrong decision, every frustrated message from the dev team. He remembered it all and shared it later. They used that information to make their version stronger. They fixed problems Amy's team couldn't. They added features that actually worked. Every piece of their build was made with care and tested again and again. It was simple, fast, and smooth. The kind of product they always wanted to make. Liam started talking to people on his team. Carefully, one at a time. He didn't rush anyone. He asked questions, listened, and then quietly shared a preview of what they were working on. It wasn't about sales or promises. It was just, here's what we built. Want in? 2 developers joined them. One said he was tired of the confusion. Nothing made sense in meetings anymore. The other just wanted to write clean code again. They both stayed quiet and worked part-time, just like Liam. No one at Amy's company knew they were slipping away. She also wanted to understand how users felt. So she made a few simple surveys and shared them in online groups. People didn't know who she was or what the survey was for. They answered honestly. The results were clear. Many users were unhappy. They said the product was slow. Features were broken. Some said they stopped using it completely. She kept every response. It helped her know what to fix, but it also gave her confidence. She wasn't just building out of anger. She was solving real problems. People needed a better option. To protect her work, she filed a provisional patent. It covered the most important part of the system, the core that made it work better than anything else. It wasn't public, but it meant no one could copy her without risking a fight. She filed it quietly, just days before Amy's team was set to show their product to investors. Amy had no idea. She thought she was ahead. She thought her demo would impress everyone. But behind the scenes, her team was slowly slipping away. Developers were tired. Users were frustrated. And someone else already had a working version, stronger, faster, and protected. The day of the big event was coming soon. It was one of the biggest demo days in San Francisco, where startups came to show their work to investors. Amy's company had been preparing for weeks. She had seen small hints of it online, posts, hints of updates, talk about a big launch. She already knew they weren't ready. The product still had bugs. It still couldn't handle big tasks. But they were going to pitch anyway. She and her small team made a plan. They would also go to demo day, but not as themselves. They rebranded the product with a new name, EchoWork. They got a booth at the last minute. It wasn't flashy, but it didn't need to be. The product would speak for itself. By the time they arrived, the place was already buzzing with energy. Startups were setting up, checking cables, running last-minute tests. She kept her head down. So did Liam. They weren't there to be seen. They were there to show what they'd built. Their booth was small but clean. The design was simple. The screen showed the app running in real time. Real tasks, real users, no lags or errors. Some visitors passed by at first, uninterested. But once they saw the app work, they stopped. Then they called others over. People were surprised. Some asked how long it had been in development. She gave short answers, letting the app do the talking. A few even said they'd been looking for something just like it. One investor said, "This is smoother than anything I've seen today." Then Amy arrived. She didn't see them at first. She was walking around with a small group, laughing, showing off her badge. But when she turned the corner and saw Echo work, she froze. Her eyes met hers. Amy's smile vanished. She stepped closer, trying to act calm, but her hands tightened around her folder. Liam didn't say a word. He just kept typing. Amy came closer but said nothing. She stood there for a few seconds, looking at the screen. Her eyes moved fast, trying to understand what she was seeing. Then she walked away. It didn't matter. By then, people were crowding around. Investors leaned in to ask questions. Some were already testing the app on their own devices. One of them turned and said, "This is what we hoped Amy's product would be." She didn't smile, but she felt it. All the quiet nights, all the frustration, all the hidden work. It was worth it. Not because of revenge, because the product finally had a chance to be seen. Later, someone told her Amy's pitch had gone badly. Too many questions, not enough answers. The app froze during the demo. One investor walked out halfway through. She didn't gloat. She just kept showing Echo work. More people came. More hands-on tests. More smiles. No one asked who she was. No one needed to. The product said enough. It started with a message from Liam. He had been checking old files while cleaning out his work computer. That's when he found something strange. A set of design files and code in Amy's company folder that didn't belong. They looked familiar because they were. They were parts of the early designs and mock-ups she had worked on before she was fired. The color schemes, the layout, even parts of the code were copied almost exactly. Liam wasn't sure what to do at first. He sent the files over quietly, asking her to look. She opened them, and her chest tightened. These weren't just inspired by her work. These were taken straight from her original designs, the ones she had saved before she left the company. The same work Amy had pretended was hers during that boardroom pitch. She had always kept a backup, just in case. Her designs, ideas, and prototypes were saved with dates and time. Every update, every version, every commit. She even had email threads where Amy gave vague praise, but never credited her. All of it was still there. She took screenshots, zipped the files, and called a lawyer. A few days later, a cease and desist letter was sent to Amy's company. It explained that their product had stolen protected work. It pointed to design elements, user flows, and parts of the code that were clearly from her original files. The lawyer asked for them to stop using it and warned that legal steps would follow. Amy tried to talk her way out of it. She posted online saying there had been early collaboration, that the work had been shared freely, that things were unclear, and maybe it was all just a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. She had proof that she was forced out. Emails from HR saying her performance wasn't enough. A copy of the exit paperwork. The date stamps showed the company started using her designs after she was gone. Liam also came forward, confirming what he saw. He said clearly that Amy used her files to create the first version of the app, and that everyone in the company knew it. More people began to talk, quietly at first. Former team members sent messages, saying they always wondered how the product came together so fast after she left. Some even admitted they had seen pieces of her work reused, but didn't know how to speak up. Amy's company tried to hide it. They made a few changes to the product, moved some things around, tried to cover their tracks. But it was too late. The base of their app still came from her files. It couldn't be erased. The legal team pushed forward. They sent a full report to the investors showing what happened. The documents were clear and detailed. Dates, screenshots, witness notes. The case was strong. Amy's version of the story fell apart. She never made a public apology. But within a week, the company took down its launch posts. The website went offline for maintenance. Amy's LinkedIn page quietly changed. No more updates about her startup. No more proud posts about her team. She didn't celebrate. She didn't brag. But she felt something shift. For the first time, Amy couldn't lie her way out of it. The truth was written down, backed up, and undeniable. And now everyone knew. The team working under Amy was tired. They had spent months trying to fix a broken product. Nothing seemed to work right. The bugs kept coming, deadlines were missed, and the pressure was growing. Some of them hadn't even been paid on time. A few got late paychecks. Others were still waiting. People started talking in private. Slack messages turned cold. Calls went unanswered. The energy was gone. No one trusted the process anymore. Promises were made and broken. One engineer said he hadn't seen a clear roadmap in weeks. Another said she was doing 3 roles but getting paid for. They were exhausted and confused. Morale was low, and it kept dropping. That's when she made a move. She posted a job listing. Not a normal one. This was public and direct. It said, looking for developers experienced with Amy's tech stack. Hiring fast. Bonuses included. It didn't mention Amy's company, but everyone knew what it meant. The news spread quickly through tech circles. Some of Amy's team saw it the same day. Others were sent the post by friends. A few brushed it off, but many didn't. They clicked. They read. They started to wonder what it would be like to work somewhere else. Somewhere with fewer problems, clearer leadership, and working code. One by one, they reached out. She didn't pressure them. She answered their questions, showed them what echo work looked like, and told them the truth. There was no drama. Just results. A working product, a focused team, and real users. It was enough. Within 1 week, more than half of Amy's developers quit. Some gave notice. Others just left. A few said they were done with startups completely. The damage was deep, and it had been building for a long time. Her post had simply given them a reason to walk away. Amy panicked. She called meetings. She sent long emails. She even handed out NDAs, hoping to stop people from joining Echo Work. But most of them didn't sign anything. And the ones who had, the NDAs were weak. Her legal team said they couldn't be enforced. They were written in a rush, full of holes. The final blow came when Amy's CTO quit. He had been with her from the start. He had helped shape the early version of the app. But he was tired too. He saw the product falling apart and knew things wouldn't get better. He messaged her directly. The note was short. I'm leaving. Good luck. The next day, he joined Echo Work. She didn't rub it in. There was no celebration. Just more work. The new team came together fast. People were excited again. They pushed updates, cleaned up the code, and made the app stronger. There was laughter on calls, shared goals, real teamwork. Amy, meanwhile, was left with a shell of a company. The team was gone, the product was crumbling, and the silence around her grew louder. Every bridge she had built was now in ashes, burned by her own hand. An email showed up one evening. It was from an investor who had put money into Amy's startup early on. The tone was sharp but polite. He didn't hide how unhappy he was. He said things weren't adding up. Users were leaving, the product didn't work right, and the updates Amy promised never came. He'd asked questions but got vague answers. Now he wanted the truth. He said he'd been following Echo Work. He saw the product, the team, and how fast things moved. It made him wonder what Amy had been hiding. Then he found something. He forwarded a string of emails. The messages were between Amy and a few early team members. At first, they were just normal updates, meetings, timelines, code review. But then there was one short message from Amy that stood out. She wrote, "We're using pieces of the old version. No one will know." It was about the same time she had presented the pitch that got her promoted. The investor highlighted it. "I think you'll want to see this," he said. She read the emails 3 times. It was clear. Amy had known the code wasn't hers. She'd told her team to use it anyway. That one message said everything. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't even try to hide it well. She just went ahead. The investor said more. He said Amy had kept him in the dark. She never mentioned that key parts of the code weren't original. She never shared real user numbers. The churn rate was high, meaning customers tried the app and didn't stick with it. The bugs were constant. The product wasn't ready, but Amy made it sound like it was perfect. He said he felt tricked. She didn't answer right away. She read the emails again. Then she removed names and any personal detail. She took screenshots, added a short note at the top, and shared them online. Just a simple post on a quiet tech forum. Sometimes the truth leaks itself. She didn't tag anyone. She didn't name Amy. But people figured it out. The post spread fast. Within hours, developers, founders, and tech writers were sharing it. Some said they weren't surprised. Others called it bold. A few even said they had worked with Amy and believed every word. It didn't go fully viral, but it made waves. People in the right circles saw it. Private messages started pouring in. Some shared stories. Some just thanked her for posting it. A few even said they had thought about working with Amy's company, but now changed their mind. Amy never responded publicly. She didn't post. She didn't explain. She just got quiet. But in the background, people were starting to walk away from her. Investors, advisors, even former allies stopped replying to her updates. The trust was gone. No loud announcement was needed. The damage was already done. She filed the lawsuit without delay. It was not for revenge. It was because Amy had taken something that was not hers. The product idea, the code, the early designs, all of it had come from her work. Now it was time to prove that in court. The case was built on clear facts. She had saved every design, every file, every Git commit. Everything was dated. She had the original mock-ups. She had early prototypes that showed how the idea grew step by step. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was made up. It was all real, and she was ready. Liam stood by her. So did the others who had left Amy's team. They agreed to speak the truth. They said Amy never really understood how the product worked. She didn't know the code. She only knew how to present it, to talk big in meetings. But when it came to building, she was always asking others to fix things. Their words helped a lot. These were people who had worked under Amy. They had nothing to gain by lying. They just wanted to set the record straight. One even brought notes from old team calls where Amy had said things like, "Just make it look like it works." The pattern was clear. Amy's legal team reached out. They wanted to make the problem disappear. They offered money and asked her to drop the case. They said there was no need to fight. Just take a check, sign a paper, and move on. She said no. She didn't want money. She didn't want a quiet deal. She wanted something simple. Amy had to step down. Not just inside the company, but in public. She had to admit she no longer led the product. No vague words. No fake roles. She had to walk away from the thing she took. Amy's lawyers pushed back. They said it would hurt her career. They asked if there was another way. She said no again. It wasn't about pride. It was about truth. The product was never Amy's to begin with. Weeks passed. Then one day, someone sent her a screenshot. It was Amy's LinkedIn page. The top line was gone. No company name. No title. Just a short note. Looking for new opportunities. That was it. No apology. No message. But it was enough. She had stepped down. The lawsuit didn't need to go further. Everyone now knew the truth. People saw what had really happened. Amy was no longer leading anything. The name she had tried to build was gone, replaced by silence. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was done. The offer came on a Tuesday morning. A mid-size enterprise company wanted to buy Echo Work. They had watched it grow from the shadows. Now it had real users, a strong team, and working features. They offered $12 million. She accepted. There was no big party, no big headline. Just a quiet handshake, signed papers, and a moment where she finally let herself breathe. She had done it. Not just built something, but rebuilt it. After being pushed out, laughed at, and ignored, she had made something better. And now it had value. The money was nice, but it wasn't the best part. People had seen what really happened. The quiet messages, the nods from strangers, even the way recruiters talked to her now. It was clear. She wasn't just a designer anymore. She was the one who had fought back and won. Word got around. Not loud or fast, but steady. Startups whispered about her story. Young devs looked up to her. Even people who never met her had heard how she had stood her ground. One evening, she went to a tech mixer. She didn't plan to stay long, just enough to meet a few folks and say hello. The room was full of smiles, handshakes, and fast conversations. She stood by the drink table, listening, when she noticed someone across the room. It was Amy. She looked different. No badge, no title, no team. Just another face in the crowd, holding a glass and nodding along. She didn't speak much. When their eyes met, Amy looked away. A few minutes later, they stood near the same corner. Amy was pretending not to see her, still holding her glass, still smiling at no one in particular. She stepped closer. Amy noticed and turned, forcing a small smile. Without anger, without raising her voice, she leaned in and said, "Thanks for the idea." Then she walked away. No one else noticed. No one clapped. But that moment meant everything. Amy had tried to erase her, tried to take her work and name and make it hers. But now Amy had nothing to show for it. No team, no product, no company, and no one rushing to hear her next idea. The room buzzed with voices, music, laughter. She walked through it calm and clear. Not because she had won, but because Amy had finally lost.